I'm awake. Are you?
I wonder how many miles I've fallen. It seems I'll get to the center of the earth. Curious, isn't it? And really, nothing's quite impossible.
Let's go now to our new episode of the Unfiltered Rise with me, Heidi Love.
But it is these members of the society I think are interesting. Heidi named some matters of parapolitics in our more modern era that you may not think are necessarily relative to these topics of the Mormons and the Society of Cincinnati, which they seem to be an offshoot. Joseph Smith's grandfather, Smith, served in the Massachusetts militia as a captain, thus qualifying him for membership in the hereditary knighthood that started America, the Society of the Cincinnati. So that would have been passed down to Joseph's father and then likely on to Joseph. So
and his grandfather's name was Azael. The kid from the two people, because we got two Samuels, the one that went to the witchcraft, the captain that JJ's talking about, then it goes down to Azael. And I'm telling you, I just don't think a Christian would name their kid that. I just don't. I don't.
The Codex. Now, today, I'm joined by Heidi Love, and then later on, JJ Vance will be dropping in. And we're stepping into a space that's rarely talked about, especially not like this. We'll be exploring the darker, more hidden layers of the Mormon Church, from spiritual manipulation to the kind of personal and generational wounds that don't always get discussed in polite company. This isn't a hit piece. It's not a theological debate, and we're not here to argue dogma. We're here to listen, to question, and to follow the threads wherever they lead. Heidi and JJ are bringing their lived experiences, their insights, and their willingness to speak about the things many people are just too afraid to whisper. Now, we'll go so deep down the rabbit hole that you'll think we came out the other side. We'll trace bloodlines, discuss occult magic, and even necromancy. Yeah, it all falls under this one title. So now we don't know exactly what will come up. This is one of those conversations where the truth reveals itself in real time. So I want you guys to keep up with us, keep your mind open, because once you pull back the veil, there's no unseeing what's behind it. All right, let's step into the shadows together. All right, everyone, let's welcome Heidi Love to Codega's Codex of Curiosities. Heidi, welcome to the show. And why don't you tell my listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself and where they can find you?
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here. I'm glad we finally connected. We've been in the community and like danced around each other, but we finally met, and through JJ Vance. Shout out JJ. And it was a great
sorry,
show.
Hopefully, sorry to interrupt you. Hopefully, JJ is going to join us a little bit later here. He's just fallen a little bit behind.
We told him to get over here. That's what. And he's supposed to head over this way. But luckily, we got to do a different show together, and then we met that way, and then we were on another show together. So now we kind of done this, and now we're actually here. And I thought, wow, who better to speak to about some of this weird Mormon stuff? Because I am Heidi Love of the Unfiltered Rise. And for those that don't know me, I'm an ex-Mormon, and I speak out living in Utah because I like to not feel safe in my home. No, I'm just kidding.
I have a great security system.
Right. He's very big, and he almost weighs 130. He's very cute and fluffy, but not if you break in my house. That's my security system. So, and if you do want to find me, I'm everywhere podcasts are served. I do have my own website, unfilteredrisepodcast.com, and everything streams to there as well. And for my audience, because this is a collaboration, would you let me know all about you and where to find you?
All right. So I'm Riot, the host of Codega's Codex of Curiosities. It's a great alliteration. It's a bit of a mouthful, but some people have an issue with it. I don't, of course, but my show is a little bit about everything. You know, I delve into mysteries, lost history, cryptids, paranormal, abductions, black budget, things that are off the record, such as Mormonisms, which is something that is completely new to me. And of course, I can be found on YouTube, Rumble, Apple, Spotify, Facebook, social media, you name it. Yeah. For myself, you know, I'm just going to jump right into the Mormons here now. My knowledge of the Mormons are white shirt, black pants, black tie with a little name tag, walking around with a Bible, and of course a backpack.
Yes. And a bike, right?
I guess some of them have bikes here. I see them here all the time, but I don't see the bikes. That's my only knowledge of them. I know that the big Mecca is in Salt Lake City in Utah,
Yes.
but I've never really jumped into anything other than just that, or seeing their advertisements when I was growing up on TV. They had these advertisements on TV all the time, but that was it.
Yeah.
Now, I listened to an episode of you on the confessionals with Tony, and I was like, what? What is going on? What is being hidden from us? Here we are.
Yes, definitely very strange religion that most people think, well, they're the nicest people ever, and I'm like, okay, well, that is not untrue. And for those that don't know my work and they think, oh, she's just bashing the Mormon church, listen, I was one. I'm a pioneer heritage Mormon. Somebody labeled me Mormon royalty on there, which was funny, but I was royalty blood that was a Mormon, right? Like it's not the same thing. It wasn't because there were royal Mormons, but I guess there were, which was a weird thing because I think they hid them. But that's fine. Different story for a different day. I am a Merovingian bloodline up on my bloodlines, and as well as right now, currently, the King of England is my eighth great grandfather, and the House of Stuart, House of Bourbon. These are my family members. And why is that? Not to brag on this at all. Questioning everything as why is a poor farmer in Utah that?
Good
Please
point.
explain. Right. And so that's kind of led me down some weird different directions. Me and JJ have done a bunch of bloodline shows on this. And I think they're really important. And people miss the facts of what Mormonism was or what Mormonism is at its core because the people are so nice. Well, so are Jehovah's Witnesses. So are a lot of Muslim people. Like, let's be honest, there's a lot of people with really good you know, morals, values, Catholics, all of these people that maybe, they still are a Babylonian magic religion, right? So it gets in the weeds. And so I kind of am here to expose that on accident. I never wanted my faith to be what it is. It sucks because luckily I feel I am very lucky that I was able to keep my Christ-centered life even though I left Mormonism. Most people become atheists, and that's just a fact. Because they feel so betrayed. And if this isn't real, then nothing is real, right? And I get it. Like it is a lie and it harms you to your very core. Either you're all the way in and it's a cult. This is why. Either you're all the way in, or if you have questions, you're on the outs, and there's no in between, really. I mean, they'll play like there is, like, oh, you have a question, Jenny? Well, come here and let me talk to you about it. And you're wrong and get yourself right. So, and they're nice. Look, I'm not saying my grandma was nice. My grandma was a true blue TBM, true blue Mormon. And so we have all these things where it doesn't connect with the mind, right? And so people have a hard acceptance of this dichotomy. They're like, you are speaking trash. And
But
so
I would say I would have been one of those kind of from the outside saying, no, they're great. They smile, they wave, they're friendly all the time when I see them on the street or in the
yeah,
parks.
those people are. Yeah, because and this is what I have to relate it to. And for those that might take offense to this, I'm sorry, but this is the only analogy I can give. There are masons and then there are porch masons. We both know that that's not the same thing. And we both know that at those high upper echelons, there are very important people calling shots for very important things. And they're not involved with the dinner porch masons, really. They're not. They don't care. And they don't care either. Vice versa. The dinner guys want to be left alone. They just want to go to dinner and live their life and do charity, right? Like, please. And so it's a hard dichotomy because you see like Masons do a lot of charity. Masons do a lot of good things too. And then you're like, wait, there's Satanists at the top. What is happening here? And people start talking stuff and you hear these weird things, right? And people also say that strange. I'm like, Satanist is a weird word there, but they believe in some different things at the top. Let's be honest. It's like Xenu, Scientology. They're not the nicest people ever, so they're easier to hate on, right? Because look at Tom Cruise. um, and, I mean, he's nice, but he abandoned his daughter. Like, come on now. Yeah. Yeah. And so I mean, at the top, like I said, it's a different ball game, and it was designed to be. You're not supposed to know everything when you're just a porch Mason, and you're not supposed to know everything when you're a porch Mormon either. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
But that makes great sense, just compartmentalization, where it's kind of like, we'll keep these people here and those people here, but it's that top echelon that
yes,
that
one
like
1%
like the
maybe.
33rd degree Masons, those are the ones that are up there who know the true secrets. I know some 32nd degree Masons that
Nice,
aren't.
nice
They're
people.
nice. They're great. Yeah, they're very informative as well.
Yep, and you can't fault them for what I guess you can fault them if they are in the know and maybe they didn't whistleblow, but let's be honest, even in the government or anything, that's not comfortable. Like most people don't want to leave their comfortable setting. Most people don't want to be hated by all their neighbors and not let the kids play with your kids because you're the anti-Mormon in you're the heretic in the neighborhood. So like it's not a comfortable place to be, but I was led to this literally by God, no other explanation. One day I told God I would do anything. You got to be careful when you pray this prayer. Right? And I was like, God, like help me. I'm super sad. I was going through some things and I was like, I'll do anything, and I kept having this feeling like you should do a podcast, and I'm like, listen, God, I know you said that, and I think I'm hearing things because that can't be right because I only have 4 people that know me and 3 do not like me. Who do you want me to talk to? Like I'm the loudmouth lady that rubs people. Either you love me or you just don't like me. There's only 2 ways it goes, because I just am off the cuff. I didn't learn. That's why I'm unfiltered, because I don't mean to do that. My husband even says, like, your ADHD causes you great harm sometimes because you don't have a knowledge of when to stop that, and I don't. Yeah. So,
It
eh,
happens. So can we start from the
mhm,
beginning then?
yeah.
How did you get into Mormonism, and like
Yeah.
what did you find out? Where it became a point where you just thought it's just something's not right?
There was multiple points of me breaking my shelf. If you ever meet a Mormon and they come out of the church, they'll talk about breaking their shelf. And that just basically means like how many books can I stack on the shelf before it breaks? Because I found out this book says it's not true and this book says it's not true and this book says it's not true. So at some point, right, it's going to get super heavy and then your shelf breaks. And that's kind of what is a Exmo. I'm an Exmo term. The Exmos talk about the shelf breaking, and I didn't have a fantastic story. Honestly, I kind of stopped being active. I wasn't doing anything bad. I just wasn't going. And, I was sick. I had cancer. Like I was sick, and so I was going through that whole thing. And then, it kind of became, when you said you take a break from something and you come back and it's not always the same, and so this break happened and I didn't fully come back. And then I was like, doom scrolling like crazy because you're sick in a bed. I'm just like, man, what purse is the most awesome purse ever? Like, and I joke about it, but I was like the most normal normie ever. Like if you'd have met me in 2015, you'd have laughed. You'd have been like, this girl's clueless.
I was there too. I really was. I was like, it's kind of funny when I go back to my Facebook memories and I see those
Those are a
posts.
gem.
Yeah, I see some of those posts and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, Rye, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? There were some things that I was questioning, like
Right.
9/11 was my door opening to things that aren't right. But for most part, I was still buying most of everything else.
The vid was my big breaking point, because 2020 changed everything for me, not just because my mom was smart. My mom is a Stevens minister for her church, and it's a non-denominational Christian church. And you asked when I got in. Well, I was born in. My family's Mormons as far back as you can go, clear back to Henry Stuart Talbot, that's supposedly the illegitimate son of the King of England, right? And so that's a fun story. But he somehow, for I don't know what reason, I'm still on that trail, ends up as a poor farmer in Utah, which doesn't make any damn sense at all. I don't care what they say. And I think that this goes in with, bloodlines and families hiding out in plain sight here in America because, they were doing that. I'm not the only one. I'm not special. There's a lot of people here, and they hid their bloodlines here. That's what I think the DNA grab was with all these DNA tests. I mean, and do I think that it is royal blood they're concerned with, or do I think there's something else? Well, there's a lot of podcasts right now. Me and JJ started on bloodlines. We have quite a few. There's an amazing series with Free the Rabbits, Joel Thomas. He speaks about Rex Deus. Wow. I mean, he did an amazing job. I'm going to have to follow through and I was going down that extension road, but I don't want to do it right now because he's finishing up and I'm going to let him do his thing. So, but it's amazing for people like you need to see what actually led into the building blocks of America to understand what the hell happened here, and was it really freedom of religion, or was it a freedom to practice something that formed America? Because I dare say it's a lot more than religion. I feel like it was what wasn't popular, and what were they doing to people practicing something in England about that time, like, and France and everywhere. They were burning people for it. John Dee, he was scared to death, right? Like, let's be honest. These things, alchemists, witches, free thinkers, occultists, spiritualists, you want to name the name, but then they had to be like, you can come too, to like the Christian weirdos too. But then there's Christian mysticism and there's all these things. And I always tell people, do whatever you want to do. That's totally fine. If you want to be a Mormon, be a Mormon. But here's why I speak out. They lie. They lie and they use people. So if you ever really want to piss a woman off, lie to her and then use her and see what happens. She'll come for you, right? That's what happens. And guys are always like, holy crap, what happened there? Well, this is the Mormon church's holy crap, because I don't like
and
that.
what are those lies? What are those lies then that they brought
So
forth?
at the very top of the top, there's two things you have to know. There was a reformation of the church. So Brigham Young's church is not Joseph Smith's church. And that is just so important for everybody to know. Joseph Smith's church is a mystical, magical, if you want to call it a religion. I say he's a practitioner. I say like recognizes like, and Crowley knew exactly what Joseph Smith was, which was a moonchild, and people should read that book and his references about Joseph Smith. It's very interesting. I've done like a whole comparison. It's on my show with Crowley. And I just think that these things, got labeled folk magic. We're going to go there. So first of all, Joseph Smith's a dumb farm boy that knows nothing, and he's practicing something that everybody's doing, Rye. Everybody's doing it. Don't worry about it. It's just folk magic. Okay. So that's pretty innocuous, That doesn't sound malicious or crazy. Too bad. But then you get into the artifacts. And I so love that somebody wouldn't sell their artifacts. Whoever owns the Joseph Smith parchments, the Smith family magical relics, and also their atum, or Mars dagger, as it is called in the Mormon church, whoever owns these artifacts, hell yes, you are amazing, because you never sold out and you never let them put them in the archives, which the LDS church has in tunnels underneath the temple, just like Rome. So these things, they also say he grew up in the burned over district near Palmyra. And here's the thing, he didn't. His family was from Topsfield, Massachusetts, near Salem. And his great grandpa was involved in the Inquisition and had Mary Eastie hung at the stake. And he accused her of witchcraft. Now, what do we know about the Salem witch trials and the accusers therein? Right? Methinks you protest too much. Right? We find this out later. Yeah, that a lot of these people were practitioners, and that they were probably threatened in one way or another by somebody. So they point the finger first. And she being a woman, he being a man, she hung for it. And it's actually really interesting, because on the day that she hung for it, September 22nd, is 132 days later, the day that they say that Joseph Smith got the plates from the Moroni angel, on the very day. And they also say that Mary Eastie's ghost has been seen back to this earth. Don't know about that, but you guys can look that up on Salem Witchcraft Projects. It's all over the place. I will be having a fun fall episode, hopefully with this guy that does Salem witchcraft books and stuff, and he's going to come on, I hope, and talk about this. So it's going to be an interesting ride, but these people are practitioners, and their parchments clearly say I am practicing Solomonic and Enochian magic. That is not folk magic. That is real serious. And your eyes got big. Yeah, because you saw. Like that is not a magic system to be taken lightly in any way, shape, or form. No. Nope. And so we all know the very sad demise of John Dee. We all know, that these things come with a cost. And I do believe, that cost came to Joseph Smith as well. He did die with a Jupiter talisman in his pocket, manufactured straight from the Magus. And I have pictures of that. Episode 172 is a great one for anybody. If you want the slides for me to prove this, you got it. I never not bring slides because of the fact that a picture speaks 1,000 words, right? They also had necromancy materials such as death canes. They dug up the prophet and his brother in the decrepit, gross coffins that they were decomposing in, and took the wood from that and made canes for all the future prophets and put their hair in the knobs. I want people to remember wands are not always wands. Sometimes they're a staff. So be aware when people have canes, what exactly is going on here, right? Very interesting. And the reason why Joseph Smith, when he died, Brigham Young took over was because people said there was a transformation that happened to him, a transfiguration that happened to Brigham Young in the midst of the crowd this day, that he actually turned into Joseph Smith himself. Now, I don't know what the hell is going on with that, but I do know that angels are not dead guys. And I do know that angels were never alive on the earth. We know this. Angels are not that. We are not angels. And Moroni was a man that once lived on this earth. So what are we talking about? Are we talking about necromancy here? Are we talking about speaking to spirits? Another fun thing you have to look at is Martinists. Martinism is a very old practicing order of Freemasonry, much older than Scottish Rite, which had only really been organized at that point in time for about 50 years here in America, like anywhere. And it got here to America and got established all within 50 years. Okay. No. I think he was a Martinist. Martinists twice a year on the spring equinox and the fall equinox can go out and summon things to speak to them. And this is they're known practicing. They're still around today. This is like the dark arts of mystery religion type masonry. This isn't just talk about things. And so, and actually Ike Baker says he's a Martinist, FYI. Yeah. I'm not outing him. He's had that on his show, so these people still are around and magically practicing. Does that mean he's a bad guy? No. You have to listen to the whole thing. Do I even think that people that practice magic are bad people? It's your funeral. All I know is when people mess with the outer realms, you're going to have some price to pay.
You're inviting some stuff in. Yeah.
Yes.
There is a price to pay. Yes.
Well, and we see it time and time again with you've got John Dee. He also had a stone or crystal ball, right, given to him by an angel. We know that. And we also know that he used a scrying mirror as well that was obsidian. And what did he do? He spoke to the angels, right, and wrote it down. And it became what? It became a movement of many religions, including Templars and everything that spawns from this. This turns into many things. We have Crowley, who goes and sees AWAS, and he writes everything down. It becomes the book of the law, and it becomes what? The OTO and Thelema. Like, these things become books that become religions. We've got L. Ron Hubbard and Parsons out in the desert, and they talk to things and they write it down, and it becomes Scientology. We've got Muhammad, and we write it down. And this is just on and on and on and on and on. And every single time it's charged by what? Sex. Because then Mormons have polygamy, Muslims have polygamy. Crowley and Parsons were already doing some weird stuff. We already know out in the desert. They were charging up their own stuff. They weren't waiting around. Crowley's first encounter with Awas too was on his honeymoon, so that was probably very sexually charged. John Dee, the wife swapping, we go on and on and on and on and on. It's never benevolent. I mean, come on. God wouldn't be like, yeah, let's swap that wife, No, 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 no. And so when we talk about these things, it's not that I don't think they're wrong. I think it's wrong what they do, because all these people like me, like I once was, believe that these ordinances and things that we do in the temple are all about going to heaven. And they're not. They're Masonic. And I didn't know what a Mason was. As dumb as that sounds, I didn't even know what that was. I didn't know what a Freemason was.
Wow.
And
Heidi,
I wore.
Can you hold on
Yeah,
one?
of course.
Sorry, hold on. Heidi, hold on
course.
1 second. We're going to bring
Ah,
JJ.
yay.
We're going to bring JJ on into this conversation. So, JJ, welcome to Codega's Codex of Curiosities. Glad to have you in and on. We're just going to do a quick little thing here. JJ, tell us a little bit about yourself and where everyone can find you.
Well, Rye, great to see you again, sir. Heidi, always great to see you, ma'am. Apparently, I'll be apologize for my tardiness. Apparently, I'll be late to my own funeral, but I mixed up the time zones here, and I do apologize there. But glad I can make it back here in time to join y'all. JJ Vance, host of Operation GCD, and not the vice president. And former Mormon, much like Heidi. 22 years myself there. I just surpassed the point where I've spent more than half my life outside of the church.
Yay.
Congratulations. That's something to be proud of. We're just going into to the details about sex magic, everything. Now,
I was
there was
freaking
something,
out.
Heidi. I was going to say, Heidi, when you were talking about working with the outer realms, it kind of reminds me of alchemy, where nothing. Humankind cannot gain anything without first giving something in return.
Absolutely.
To attain something of equal value must be lost. And that's the equivalent exchange. And that's when you're talking about this magic, working with the outer realms, there is this exchange. You have to give something up, which can lead you into so many other topics. But let's just keep going, Heidi. And JJ, you can kick in whatever you get up to speed here.
I like where I jumped in the necromancy, geomancy, all alchemy.
Sex magic,
this is the Mormon stuff. Yeah, sex magic. Yeah. A lot of folks think polygamy is rooted in wanting to have multiple wives. You probably know just as well as I do, sir. I mean, that's a lot to handle, having 6 or 7 wives. Having one wife is a lot to handle for many men. So,
yeah,
exactly. It sounds terrible.
Heidi agrees, right, man?
Yes, I would never have more than any one of any of them, but especially not women.
Well, I was gonna say, and then from the women's perspective, you got, you're competing with 6 other wives or whatever, right? So for the same guy, but it's not just polygamy. That's what I'm saying. It is the sex magic these things are rooted in.
Yes, absolutely. It charges it. If people don't understand about magic, they're never going to understand about Mormonism, because you can read crazy books like the Brotherhood of Saturn, like Saturnus Fraterni. You really want a page turner, make sure you have a new copy, because you don't want a used one. Anyways, they charge their sigils up
the
on
pages
the paper.
Stick a little bit is what you're saying?
Yeah. You don't want it. And so here's the thing, at the beginning of time, we know one thing: no matter what it is, if it's not inside the God realm, then it can't be created. And what is our bodily fluids, right? It's creation. Whether it is creating a human or not. It could be man on man, woman on woman. It doesn't matter. People on children, which we already know. It's just bad, right? We see this time and time again. And I'm like, okay, here's the part where Heidi said, I'm going to say something, because see something, say something. This isn't right, first of all. Now, the Mormons aren't oppressing women anymore and doing polygamy, and not that all of them were oppressed. Some of them freaking liked it, and that's whatever to them. Hey, whatever people want to do, if they know and have a full knowledge of it, knock your socks off. I don't care what you do at your house, but these rituals that they have us do, we never know why we do them, and we never really get explained why, and we're very confused, and then we're traumatized. And so instead of going through these magical things through drugs, like Crowley and all these other people, right into this realm of like the ego death and all this stuff, that we are talking about, the dark night of the soul. Okay, we'll just put it that way. When we have these things happen to us with a chemical or a liquid or whatever it is, right? That's a big difference than having your mind freaking broken in the middle of something that you don't know what's happening because you've been so sheltered your whole life. And then all of a sudden it went from like total vanilla ice cream to like everything on top, and you're just confused. And I'm not saying they do anything creepy in there, like sex stuff or nothing. I'm just saying it's a lot to handle when you start seeing like, what are we doing? Like, why are we doing this? What is happening here? Why are we chanting? Why are we putting our arms to the square and going in a circle and chanting like druids? Like, please explain. And, it's weird and no one will talk about it. JJ knows as well as I do. Like, JJ kept quiet for his mom, and
That's
for
true.
many years he didn't say anything. Yeah, but he was traumatized. Me
Yeah, I mean, without the
too.
context of these activities, which they don't give you, you know what I mean? That you're
Oh,
left to these things. So I got all priesthoods that the men get in the church from age 13, 15, and 18, I believe it is. Went to
yep.
seminary, so I did all those things. I was prepared to, I had folks. Well, my mother was preparing me to go on a mission and go to BYU, but I had other plans. I went to war instead.
Yep.
Anyhow, she was against all of that, by the way. So, um, yeah. So she, which many Mormons are, despite you find a lot of them in the military and in all the intelligence agencies. They are oftentimes, rather hippie-like in their views of combat and war.
Absolutely.
And so, sorry, what is this hand to the square kind of thing?
It's a whole thing. I mean, I can show you if you want. If we want to do the other stuff a different day, because I know you have a heart out, I can definitely share some things that me and
Yeah.
JJ
Well,
can talk.
We can always do a part 2 for sure.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
If I may add
Well,
a quick, when you're looking for that, Heidi, if I may add something on
yep.
that. In regards to these Freemasonic similarities in their rituals and whatnot, as Heidi's describing, the official stance of the mothership today, the Salt Lake City mothership, the head of the church, I call them the mothership. They're an ancient alien cargo cult, so that's their mothership in Salt Lake City. And their claims are, well, our rituals are identical to Freemasonry because they come from the same place. So that's their official
So
excuse.
I put
Solomon's
a
Temple, sir.
share.
They say they go back to the days of Solomon's Temple.
Can you see this screen at all? Sorry. Okay, because I can't see you guys. So just let me know if I disappear or like anything, like if it starts getting weird. Because I won't know. And one time that happened. This is kind of what is real in the church. This isn't what we're told at all. Back in the day, now they've kind of came out with it because they just can't hide it anymore. And so, the Skull and Bones prophet Russell M. Nelson did a photo shoot to show us the truth. I think yeah, here we go. And he took the hat out of cold storage, and I'm absolutely not kidding. And it was all of South Park, and I just went, I thought they said that was a lie. Like I was so confused, and I was just like, this is weird. And I was already in Exmo then. I was out, but I still had a jolt of like, what is happening when he brought this out? And I wasn't kidding. Skull and Bones prophet. Skull and Bones was created by Mormons. JJ knows this as well. I think they're your family.
And what is
right?
this hat? What is this?
So he used it as a scrying hat. This is Joseph Smith's top hat. He would block out all the light, much like Nostradamus or John Dee or anybody for scrying. And they would use these magical rocks. John Dee had the obsidian mirror and a crystal ball, but nevertheless, this is magic. And you see these things throughout Mormonism, but they lie to you about it, right? They're telling you, no, it doesn't have anything to do with it. That's not true. Well, it is true. And now we have all the proof. Like these things that I'm showing you are things that the church has said, yes, this is real. And people can go look that up.
So what you just shared with us is this fun fact. William Chase found this rock while digging a well on his property, and Joseph Smith asked to borrow it and refused to give it back.
Yes.
Mormonism is built on a stolen rock. This is just a little rock that he put into his hat and scribed with?
This is his one of his magical rocks. They say it's his most special one. This is Sally Chase's green seer stone. The other one is the brown one, supposedly his favorite. But tell me this. I think this is his favorite because there's no real pictures of it. Wouldn't you have a photo of the best one? Like, come on. It's only an artist rendition. So I think this one's probably made of quartz, in my opinion. But whatever.
Yeah, and it was a
or a
specific kind
Herkimer
of quartz,
diamond.
apparently, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, that
Hmm.
there you go. Yeah, very interesting rock. I came to find
And
out from
that's Shelley. Yeah,
yeah,
Shelley.
Shelley Olmsted. Shelley Olmsted educated myself and Heidi on that a few weeks ago in regards to the Mormons' early onset of activity in New York.
Yeah, I did
Okay.
not know
And,
about
and it
that.
has to do with the Herkimer diamonds?
We think that
Yeah,
that
so there's a
that rock,
yeah.
yeah, might
I
be the
can bring it up
same.
if you want from what Shelley was describing to us.
Hmm. And then, so while he's looking for that, these are the other things I was mentioning: is his Jupiter talisman, which is clearly made from the magus, which is a magical. I mean, this is from the Keys of Solomon, Lesser and Greater Keys of Solomon. And that's just not Christian. Like, I'm sorry to burst anybody's little bubble here. Here's his magical Mars dagger, or his Atame. Anybody that practices magic will realize that straight out the gate, with the inscriptions and different things here on these seals for his. It's for magic. Like, this is what
Yep.
what it is. I mean, these are the parchments. There's a few of them here. They'll blame him on other people. That was his brother. No, it wasn't. Da, da, da. They died together. So it goes like that. But these have all been extremely checked out, and they check out more with Joseph's sun sign, all of his astrology, everything.
Yeah, and this looks like a rune, like a Viking sigil.
Yep. This is pulling
Yes, sir.
energy
That's
in. Yep.
exactly. Well, it's
Yep.
past. Well, that's exactly where it comes from, in my opinion. So when Heidi
Uh-huh.
brought all this stuff to my attention, I was like, "Well, this makes a lot of sense to me." In what you just said, because these things are passed down the bloodlines, and Joseph has bloodlines back to the Templar.
Yes. Yep. I was telling him about the witchcraft trials and everything, and they just hide all this stuff. This is a better one. This is the holiness to the Lord parchment. There's holiness to the Lord is written on all of the temples, by the way. And here we've got specific calling down for angels, for intelligences, which are demons. That's what they are in this particular category. Not always. Somebody came at me once and said, so intelligence always means demon. No, it means in magic, like for this specific situation that we're
And
talking
this is
about.
something I want to bring up that you see all the time, where a lot of people are like, praise God, but we're never told which God that they are praising. When someone says, I want to thank God, like in the music industry or awards or
Yes.
something like that, oh, praise God, thank you, God. You
Yes.
know,
100%.
you're
I
assuming
I don't
which God
disagree,
that they're
sir.
talking about. But
100%.
yeah, we're assuming that, but we don't know. We have
No.
no idea which God they're praising.
Well, and on top of it, this is explained away by the Mormon Church. This one back here, these particular seals are on this paper, okay? And I want to show something here is they'll say this was to protect him because evil people were coming for him. No. This says whoso beareth this, okay, and has it, that the things that he brings down have to obey him, not just the things that he has against him. No, he is
So
bringing them
these are controlling sigils.
yes.
These are, oh,
And
jeez.
so
Okay.
when we're talking about these things, see, whoso beareth this sign about him, let him fear no man but God. But this one says, whoso beareth this, what does it say about him? All spirits shall do him homage. That is not just being protected from things being chucked at you. That's not the
This
same
is
thing.
so occultish.
It's very
This
occult.
is crazy. We're summoning demons. We're summoning
Well, then some of
spirits.
these are
Some people
literally.
say spirits, but they're demons.
Yeah, this one literally. There's literally ones that are said to be intelligences, which means demon. And this goes far deeper than just Freemasonry. I mean, it goes far deeper than a lot of things that they want to accept. And I understand. I also once was that person, and I get how creepy that can be. These are the coffin canes I spoke to you about, and these are in a museum. These are picture proof. I'm not making this up, that they dug him up and made canes out of their dead body juice wood. And then they put their hair in the knob, and it is just, it went to the next one. It went to Brigham Young and Sidney
There's
Rigdon
that
and many
necromancy
others.
we were talking about again.
100%. And it's gross, who even knows what they did with the rest of their bodies, honestly. They were moved like multiple times. And we're talking about skull and bones family members here Like, this is serious, and it goes super deep. But
But
Joseph
Heidi,
Smith
where did
had
the
a
Skull and Bones
serpent
family members
king.
get this skull veneration and rituals from?
Right. Oh, it's Babylonian. I mean, this goes back
Well,
to
not only is it
Babel.
Babylonian, it goes back to the Templar.
And so when we talk about this, we're going into a magical realm, because who influenced the Templars? John Dee. And who influenced John Dee? Al Kindi. And this stuff goes back and back and back and back until you reach Babylon, basically. But they're all
I think the
magical
Templars
offshoots.
probably, if I may, Heidi, I think the Templars probably are the ones that influenced John Dee, though, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think it was vice versa. Definitely working together.
Well, but John Dee wasn't around for what? Correct me if I'm wrong. What year was he again?
I just did a show
late
on him.
1500s?
1500 something. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so
But they say
I mean,
he looked up to Al Kindi, and Al Kindi was like
yeah.
a Muslim, and
Well, there
nobody
you go.
talks about Al Kindi.
Because
Yeah.
John Dee and this Muslim fellow descend from the same organization, the Templar and the
Yes.
Ashish Assassins. They're the same organization. We've been sold to them as
Yes.
different.
Yeah. John
Absolutely.
Dee is 1527 to
There it is.
1608 or 1609.
Yeah, his career was more so in the late 1500s. Or yeah, so by that, I don't know his lineage, but now that you mentioned it, Heidi, I will look it up because I suspect
he's my
probably
15th
also
great
Templar.
uncle. I found that out.
Well,
Yeah.
that's good.
You have to F around.
That's even more reason to suspect he's Templar heritage.
Yeah, because my
Because
family.
we know you
my
are,
family.
so if he's your uncle, so I mean, there you go.
15th great uncle, and I definitely am a House of Bourbon Merovingian bloodline, and Medici. So yeah, he's definitely up to something there. But and people will say, well, you're related to everybody. Yes, figure it out. If you've got one, you're probably related to all of them. Yeah,
Yep.
and
I get the
it's
same stuff.
weird. Yeah. And so, we don't have to make it up. It is what it is. Like JJ likes to say, it's more of a pole than a tree. And I
That's for
mean, they
damn
kept
sure.
it in the family. Yeah. So, unfortunately.
Sorry, at first I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Oh, family. Yeah, my family
I-
tree is more of a family pole that lacks the branches that would necessitate to call it a tree.
I love it. I use it all the time. I always accredit you because it makes me laugh. And this is the kind of praying that we do. This is the true order of prayer in the temple. We used to do blood oaths and blood atonement, and it's very
Well, they
weird.
still do, Heidi. We have blood atonement scandals right now, do we not?
Sorry. Woo, sorry about that. Yes. And especially in Mexico, they still do. And this, this is Typhonian magic. Like, if you look at their hands, right? This is a real picture from inside the temple. That somebody new named Noah, he snuck in and he got these, and he wore Google glasses, and they hate him, I'm sure. But this kind of stuff is what we do, and not me anymore, but I did,
If I may, on that note, Heidi, I would say the Typhonians stole that from Joseph, or they got it from the same source. So Crowley venerates Joseph Smith for the same reasons that many other folks do within these magical communities, because they get their sources from the same grimoires.
Well, and the Typhon goes even further back. Crowley steals it and takes it, but that's like ancient Greece, like this is like old stuff. And when we talk about all this stuff, like these are old, but it's like nothing new under the sun. They just make it
there is so much more to this than
so much.
Like, I've also heard that he received these tablets and in the woods, and that was it. That's where it all started from. But no, that's what they want the outside world to think, where it all started from, more or less. But this is so much deeper. This magic, this occult.
Well, and kneeling over this altar to get married and looking in forever mirrors that make a portal, like, and go on and on and on and on. People laughed at me and said, that's stupid. That doesn't make a portal. Have you ever looked inside two mirrors at once? Like, it looks crazy, and it looks like this. And what color does it show at the end of that? It's always a green hue. I've looked at this over and over and over and over.
It's this emerald tablet kind of looking room.
It's very well. And what color is Lucifer's favorite color? It's green. And so, yeah.
Well, but if you're going back to these folks' theology, Thoth is the character they're probably trying to emulate with that green stuff, right?
Or Quetzalcoatl. He swallowed a green emerald. That's what one day we'll come back on and talk about with Quetzalcoatl. But supposedly he swallowed a green emerald. And, the Mormons have been quoted multiple times of saying Quetzalcoatl is Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
So,
I'm of the belief all these characters are the same. Hermes Trismegistus, Thoth, Quetzalcoatl. These are just different languages for the
but
same
they're
character.
not
No different.
Jesus. Yeah,
Well,
they
no different than we see with any other goddess or goddess character throughout time. We see the Romans and the Greeks have different names for the same character. It's the same. We apply that same concept along these same principles. We come to I think a much more accurate conclusion that
Mhm.
these characters as Quetzalcoatl and the similar characteristics, no different than like Moses and Akhenaten. Many people have
Right.
written books. Those are the same characters because it's a different language. It's the same character.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of language, this is a sample of the original Book of Mormon language. Oh, you're good. I'm almost done. This is the original characters from the Book of Mormon because he wouldn't actually say words like, and they went down to whatever. Or should we say, and it shall come to pass? JJ will get a kick out of that one. That's in there like 1,000 times. But, anyways, these characters are next to the Enochian language. I've also had somebody recently share with me the Micmac language and how close it is to that. So, they call it Reformed Egyptian, but is it? What kind of magical language is this? Is this the Adamic language of John Dee that he said was the angels? Um, and the angels lie their asses off. And I'm going to stop sharing. The angels lie so much that John Dee literally gave up everything and then had to raise Edward Kelly's kid. Like, come on, we're not talking about good guys here.
Wow.
No.
This is mind-blowing stuff for me. It's
It
all
was
an
for me
introduction
too.
to this.
It
Well,
was for
not
me
only that,
too.
sir.
Fair enough.
These magical wizards they left America in 1844 and they invaded your homelands. You're from the Mormon corridor, right? Alberta down to Mexico. There, that was the Mormon corridor. That used to be known as the
Wow.
Nation of Deseret.
I'm
Yeah.
from there. I'm
I'll-
from there as well. I'm a part Micmac native, and they
Yeah,
they
I'm
actually
Albertan.
they actually encourage them to go mate with the Micmac so they could receive their spiritual properties. They're no dummies. Yeah. So, and
Yeah,
once
we call
again,
it Salt Lake City today,
Lanzo
but
Meadows.
from 1844. Well, I'm sorry, 1850 until 1894. That was the Nation of Deseret, and it spanned up to Canada and down to Mexico.
Yeah.
I jumped from the northern aspect of it to the southern
There you go.
aspect of it. Now,
There you go.
here we go.
And then when
And
And
you
you're surrounded by Mormons in both spots, sir. I can assure you of that. Still to this
Oh,
day,
yeah.
these are very big hot spots.
Wow. Well, like I just see them. I don't see it daily, but I see them weekly. Out and about in their uniforms, and so we just pulled up the Herkimer diamonds here. So you said maybe his rock was a Herkimer diamond. So what were you
Yeah.
going to tell us about that?
Well, this was something Shelley Olmsted was educating myself and Heidi on over on the Eyes and Ears podcast a few weeks ago with Charles, the host over there. Another one of his guests, who's a local historian of sorts in the area there in Oneonta. So she was describing how this is largely accepted in their areas, locally. That this is where the county where Joseph Smith got thrown out of the first time. He gets thrown out of that county, then Kirtland, Ohio, and then Independence, Missouri, and then he gets murked in Carthage prison, but it was Nauvoo, Illinois. They were set up in, right? So, and again, there's a lot of politics involved. He was friends with Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln's law partner was Joseph Smith's personal attorney. He represented him in numerous cases. Lincoln sat and he wasn't technically on the case, but he sat there at the table with him one day in a trial in Springfield.
Well, and he's also
So
the
he's-
cousin to John D. Rockefeller. Like this goes deeper than people understand.
Oh,
And
for
JJ
sure, but
opened that up to me with the whole Society of Cincinnati.
oh, well, there you go. And that's another part of Joseph Smith stuff. And again, with all these folks intermarry, so this is all a big family feud of sorts, is the way I look at it. And it has been for millennia going back to the old land, because the Society of Cincinnati is simply the Knights Templar here in America. That's their descendants, right?
Yep. They're hidden descendants, right?
Well, in some cases, sure, yeah.
But Lanzo Meadows, yeah, we know that Lanzo Meadows, that people came to America way before they said they did, and especially up through Canada down. So, I mean,
Well,
it's
that's the
not a big
Templars.
surprise. Yeah.
That's the Templars' ancestors, the Normans. For example, William the Conqueror is known as the Norman invasion of the United Kingdom in 1066. Our crown history today in America, and probably in your parts there as well, sir, in Canada and Mexico, under these crown histories, right? They're describing us the Vatican's version of events, if you will, and the Crown of England's version of events, not the actual version of events. So in 1066, those same Normans came to North America. And William the Conqueror's 2 lieutenants and first cousins were the progenitors of Clan Vance. So one of those members, one of those knights, Vance, went to England, the other one went to Scotland, and their descendants were part of these societies that would later form America.
100%. It's all about hidden
There's
bloodlines.
so much that I have no idea about this. Like the Cincinnati Club, like what are you guys talking about? I'm so fresh into this side of things. It's crazy. There's so much more, so many things that are connected as well that we just don't know. They got their hand in everything, in this magic and this dark occultish, this black blood sex magic.
Mm-hmm.
It's everywhere. It's infiltrated into so many aspects that we don't even know. And I had no idea that this religion was that much into that, let alone dated back much further. Like its roots are much further than I would have ever even guessed.
We're told they were formed in 1830, but Heidi and I have discussed in unpacking some of my forefathers, a man of the Society of the Cincinnati. He was essentially the head of the Secret Service, if you want to call it that, the security element of George Washington while he was in garrison in New York City during the war. A man by the name of Elias Buell. He was a Huntington, cousins with one of Heidi's ancestors.
Yes.
Huntington.
The first president of the Relief Society. Yes.
There you go. First female leader of the church.
Who used to be able to give blessings to the sick, and now they can't. They used to be able to do laying on of hands, and she had the most successful laying on of hands because she was kind of known to be magical, and that's very strange. She was also married to Brigham Young. I think she was married to both of them, right? Wasn't she?
And she's also cousins with both of them, because Young's cousins with Elias Buell, and so is Joseph Smith. They're different folks, but these Huntington folks are intermingled amongst the rest of them. That's who forms the Skull and Bones, is the Huntingtons and the Russells and the Tafts. All three of these families are represented in the Mormon Church.
And then they came here and set up the only other known branch of Skull and Bones in Utah. And the current prophet today, the president prophet of the church, prophet, seer, and revelator is his title of the church. Mm-hmm. He was a member of the Utah Skull and Bones chapter, and he admits it freely in his own biography. So, yeah.
Yeah, Heidi and I have been unpacking some of these details around the origin story, though. So my forefather, Elias Buell, there, he wrote in his last will and testament in 1824, he migrated from Vermont alongside the Mormons into New York. He dies in Albany in 1824, and he wrote, "Do not let the Mormons baptize me for the dead." Well, how can you write that in your last will and testament when the Mormons haven't been invented for 6 more years?
Wow.
Don't let them heathen Mormons get me. Yeah.
Heidi tracked back some of the theology and stuff in this occult business within the necromancy, like the baptisms for the dead specifically kind of activities, through the Smith family back further into Smith's forefathers.
Yeah. And to the witchcraft as well. And so we see these things obfuscated. They completely disconnect from that family. I had to find the family lines inside their own website, by the way, created by a Mormon, William Bill Gay, underneath Howard Hughes, which is a whole series on my channel, the Howard Hughes and the Mormon Mafia series. I believe I'm at number 5. I'm getting ready to do Onassis for number 6. It gets deep and dark, but also it's infiltrated on every piece. And when you have to understand is the Mormons 100%, as well as John D., as well as most of these people, are all about what? A new world order, a new Atlantis. These people, Joseph Smith made an order of Enoch, and it was completely like a communal communistic living, basically trying to do this and try to remake money, and he ran for the president and all these things, and it got him killed. I mean, more than that, but yeah.
So I think Heidi's making some great points there. I call this the anti-liberty faction of the Society of the Cincinnati. You have a pro-liberty faction and an anti-liberty faction. The anti-liberty faction never wanted to leave the old world, right? They wanted to maintain those relations, those economic principles that they were profiting from, etc. They want to keep that status quo today. We see that emphasized through these members that some of the folks Heidi's pointing out there, including, I would actually argue, Smith in that camp, along with Brigham Young. But it is these members of the society I think are interesting. Heidi named some matters of parapolitics in our more modern era that you may not think are necessarily relative to these topics of the Mormons and the Society of Cincinnati, which they seem to be an offshoot. Joseph Smith's grandfather, Smith, served in the Massachusetts militia as a captain, thus qualifying him for membership in the hereditary knighthood that started America, the Society of Cincinnati. So that would have been passed down to Joseph's father and then likely on to Joseph. So
And
we
his
see this.
grandfather's name was Azael. The kid from the two people, because we got two Samuels, the one that went to the witchcraft, the captain that JJ's talking about, then it goes down to Azael. And I'm telling you, I just don't think a Christian would name their kid that. I just don't. I don't.
But we see these repeating patterns in our modern parapolitics with Howard Hughes. He's likely a member of the Society of Cincinnati, and that would thus explain why he surrounds himself with Mormons who were an offshoot of the society.
JJ found it
member, that is.
on both sides.
Yeah.
Yep. Or something.
Oh, his whole trees.
Yeah.
His whole trees membership. There's no doubt he's a member. It's just a matter of which one he got inherited from, right? And then you look at JFK Jr., whose father likes, according to all the evidence.
Want me to share my screen?
Please do. Please do.
That's a good one.
It's very telling.
Yeah.
He seems to be the son of Aristotle Onassis, not John F. Kennedy, right?
I'm almost certain.
And Jackie Kennedy, her father was a member of the Society of Cincinnati out of the Maryland chapter, confirmed hereditary member, and possibly the French chapter, because the French has a chapter as well. 13 colony chapters, one French chapter. And it seems that old JFK Jr. Got inducted into the secret society that started America the moment he was born, because his grandfather Bouvier passed a few years prior.
Well, and then we see her marrying into what after her husband dies? Into the dark Illuminati. They call it the Black Illuminati. This is just how it is, you know.
That adds a whole new dynamic, not only to the JFK assassination, but the JFK Jr. death, because, you know, his father's biological father is Aristotle Onassis, and he's also a member of the secret society that started America. And then he got into politics in 1990 and started a magazine named George.
Yes, he did.
That's very interesting, considering George Washington was the original president general of the society.
Can you see this picture? I found this on accident. This is my own comparison, but I want you to notice some things. Look at his nose. Look at the bridge and the spacing between his eyebrows to come down the very long, very specific looking bridge of his nose. He also has this pyramid above his lip. Do you see that? Look at this perfect pyramid above his lip. Look at his hairline. Here, 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 here. Same thing. Here, 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 here. And then we see mother's eyes, because we have to figure Jackie into this situation. Okay. And we see the same jaw structure until you get to the chin, which is sharper like his mother. I'm sorry. I think it's his
It's also very telling that he looks nothing like his father, and he definitely looks Greek or Mediterranean, right?
His sister looks like the father. Mm-hmm. And the thing about these kind of kids is like what I told JJ, these kids, when they're born, if you're of Italian or Greek heritage or whatnot, these Mediterranean looking people, they look blonde and stuff for a while. And then things change, right? And he was about that age when things started changing. Jackie had also just been on Onassis's yacht right before JFK
That's what I was going to say. There's photographs of
Mhm.
baby JFK Jr. with Onassis.
Well, and she was on his yacht after she had baby Patrick die, because JFK was known to be such a jerk about the babies dying. And it makes you wonder if he knew that they weren't his, because the first one was named Arabella, and that does not sound like a name they would choose. If it doesn't sound like a Catholic Irish name. Okay, that's all I'm saying. And she names this baby Arabella, and they said, well, your wife's baby has passed. And he said, well, what do you want me to do about it? And he never did go home. The first one, RFK had to take care of that. And the next baby that dies is Patrick of Highland membrane disease. And so she took off and went on a boat 2 months before he died, and with Onassis on his yacht on the Christina, and with her sister. There's pictures.
Yeah, I don't know how many children old JFK Jr. is really procreating, given his presumed proclivities about sexual orientation.
Yep. I think the girl.
So that's Lynn Billings. That's his private, and it's possible. I'm not ruling it out. I'm just saying, like, that's his private school. We should recognize this fact as well. That's his private school roommate from growing up, who had a room at the White House.
Mm-hmm. Where he slept.
Mm-hmm. Lynn Billings lived at the White House with the Kennedys, Official story, and that's him, his childhood boarding school roommate.
And don't you find it strange that his only surviving child is the girl that is probably his bloodline?
I
Kind of
do.
odd.
Yeah, these Kendi
Yeah.
bastards are dark.
Yep, they are. Oh, I'm working on one, Sins of the Father, for that's after Onassis and then Chappaquiddick, because all of this whole thing, I'm not saying that he was a good guy. I'm just saying this stuff happened. Right.
Well, Chappaquiddick was a process, and in the process, church is involved with
Oh.
all these folks: JFK, RFK, and Teddy. So Teddy meets with the mayor of Cambridge in the process church. The mayor of Cambridge introduces him to the process church
Oh.
at their headquarters in Cambridge, Massachusetts, in I believe it's May of 1968. So about a month before his brother's murked by the same organization, and then a year later in Chappaquiddick, that woman that Teddy drove off the bridge there in Martha's Vineyard. She just happened to be the
And
chief
killed.
staffer for RFK. So
Yep.
she would have had all those details from that process church murking of RFK in the year prior. And the judge that let Teddy off on that also seems to be, I like to say process folks are going to process, because that judge has been letting out literal cannibalistic serial killers to continue doing exactly that out of prison.
Well, and look at how woo-woo Jackie got too. Like, she got into some weird, like, woo-woo stuff as soon as she linked up with Onassis, and even he said she was basically the devil and tried to get away from her at some point. Like, honestly, he was ready to divorce her when he died. That's proven. And then Christina dies, who didn't like Jackie, and his son dies while they're married. Like, come on. Yeah. And they both died in planes. JFK and Onassis' son both go down in planes with foul play. Suspected, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. Yeah, it's weird. Definitely weird.
This is so deep. It just, there's so much further. Yes, so much further than just people walking around.
If I may add on to some of how this affects us today, I don't like to talk about any of these old history subjects without emphasizing how it affects us today. Not just the JFK situation, how we don't understand that. That obviously impacts a lot of discussions today when folks are waiting for documents to be released, which I think is preposterous on every front. But we also see that, and it's something I've been trying to wrap my brain hole around more as of late, since our last conversation there, Ryan, when I was starting to look into more of these Mormon cult activities, largely the fundamentalists, but they really tie into the mothership, and I can demonstrate that through the example of Chad Daybell in Idaho. The mothership loved Chad Daybell and his work, his apocalyptic authoring of books and speeches. So this is a common trend with these apocalyptic ancient alien cargo cults. So they can call themselves fundamentalists and say, "Oh, they do polygamy, and we don't do business with them anymore." That's bullshit. So, and all of them work together. So the NXIVM cult was employing some of these fundamentalists, Mormons down in some of Romney's cousins down in Mexico, as nannies in their sex trafficking operations that their cult leader went to prison for. Some of those nannies got murdered by cartel members back in 2019. So there's a lot of activities around these matters that are very impactful still today. But nonetheless, I think these Mormons that used to set up the nation of Deseret and then sent their missionaries, had already had missionaries overseas. So largely the Deseret was populated with folks from England, Denmark, and there's one other nation I'm missing. And I think these people, when they moved here, they moved to the nation of Deseret, and their descendants today don't like America. So when we're talking about the Joseph Smith communisms or the utopian societies of communist practices and ideals, these things are still prevalent and persist today amongst these same crowd of folk.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And the people that we see now, like the Salt Lake City Temple, JJ knows, has always been kind of the Mecca. It's a joke and it's true, but it's always been really reveled for its design and how it was. And the Fountain of Living Waters, which also is very hermetic if you look at it. Anyway, whatever. We'll leave that there. But
I'm not gonna
it
lie to
was
you,
always
Heidi,
a big deal.
It seems kind of magical when you go there, though, doesn't it? Like whatever they've done there,
Right.
There's an impact you can feel, and I don't know if it's all the stone they have there, or whatever's producing this. There's a significant.
Does it sit on any ley lines or anything like that?
Yeah, it does.
Oh,
It
you have
does.
a quartz temple on top of a ley line. I'm assuming that produces an effect.
Yep, and the salt is the next closest salt to the Great Salt Lake salt, but actually it's not exact, and there's no other salt like it in the world ever, like at all. And I find that very strange. But also when we talk about alchemy and salt and these makeups of stone and these different things, like I think it was masonite quartz, I think is what it is, and granite. But I looked it up on what was the actual stone that they used for the temple. But now they've redone the
It's quartz.
temple.
You're
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's like granite. It's a quartz monzonite or something. I'll bring it up.
Monzonite.
It's
Yeah.
from a local valley or
Quarry.
canyon there. Quarry.
And
Yeah.
then so you have these things, and then they say they're so important, but yet they've redesigned it into the exact shape of a keyhole, just like the Vatican. It from an aerial view now, it is exactly the same. And then we see in 2018, we saw the Vatican for the first time ever allow the Mormons to build down the street, right down the street, in Italy from the Vatican, a temple. And so just so people know, that's already been done. And then we have a picture of the Mormon prophet shaking Peter's hand with the keys to the kingdom. They always say they have the keys, and now it's shaped like a key. And so is Onassis Foundation, shaped like a key. They're all keys. I mean, people need to start studying Atlantis if they want to see some of this stuff. But
There we go. So the Salt Lake Temple, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, was built with blocks of quartz, monzonite, granite, and grandiorite of the Latter-day Saints, quarried from the little cottonwood stalk.
which is super far away. And I don't know really how that's possible. I dare say it was either already partially here, or they knew how to coral castle it, to be honest.
Yeah.
The temple includes some elements thought to invoke Solomon's temple. So when we're talking Solomonic magic, and again,
the day that they constructed it, it was like groundbreaking was 1853. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's right. That
For
sounds
their
right.
cornerstone.
Yep. Yeah. I put a link in the chat about all the links to Solomon's temple and their official accounts from the official church website. But again, when we're saying Solomonic magic, as Heidi was explaining, and I keep saying that even the official accounts say it goes back to King Solomon's temple. I mean, there we go again. They're even citing here on the Wikipedia, the source of all information on the interwebs, that there's elements of this temple here in Salt Lake that hearken to Solomon's temple.
Yeah, we should pull that up, because people always tell me, oh, he wasn't a Mason. I'm like, he was a Mason, and even the church says so now. So they didn't tell us that before.
So when Joseph Smith was murked, there was 5 major offshoots, one of which was his son, Smith the third. No, wait. Yeah, the third.
No,
yeah.
I think, yeah.
Is it the third or the fourth?
He was a boy.
No, the RLDS, the Reformed LDS Church. I don't know if Joseph Fielding Smith was his son. The church traces its origins to Joseph Smith's establishment of the Church of Christ, April 6, 1830. His eldest son, Joseph Smith III, formally accepted leadership of the church in April 6, 1860. So this was the main kind of one after Brigham Young. So it was Joseph Smith III.
But he was only 10. Yeah, he was 10, so we had to wait a minute.
Yeah. So we see this group, though, they're the ones who owned a lot of very important land for many years, right? They owned the Hill Cumorah, they owned Kirtland, they owned Nauvoo. Now, over time, the mothership in Salt Lake City has weaseled their way into owning all that stuff. But my point being there is his son inherited his Masonic apron, and that was on display at the Kirtland's temple back when the RLDS still owned it.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen it.
Yep. I've got a photo of it as well. And the church doesn't hide it anymore, but people still say I'm lying. And I'm like, this is nuts. Like, he was risen to a master Mason in one day. He went and he pledged and became a Mason and was risen to a master Mason in the course of 24 hours. So he knew some shit is what I'm saying. Yeah.
But if your Grand Master of your lodge is also, he answers to you because you're the prophet, seer, and revelator, right? So, I mean, it's kind of they're, shady business on both sides, I suppose, what I'm saying, right?
Yep. Canandaigua, I believe, is where he pledged.
I'm a traveling man, sir. Not in the sense of Freemasonry, as I think that's one of their silly little terms about traveling man.
That's their question. Yeah.
I like to say be a smart ass like that. But I went to all these Mormon sites as a youngster, and this is where I saw that Freemason apron. I think I was 13, so we'll call it 1993. That was I haven't been there since, so it was on display then. But one interesting thing to note: this is their first temple they ever built, right? And you'll notice that it was built in the Federal Greek Revival architecture, which is the architecture specifically of the Society of the Cincinnati. That's what we see at U.S. Congress. That's what we see in the Edina Mansion here in Ohio, which is the namesake for the Edina Mounds. And the Edina Mounds is where he found that Book of Mormon, allegedly, right? The golden plates. So we see the same pattern of behavior amongst the same core group of secret society folks, and we can see it in their architecture too.
Yes. The more fun one, pull up the RLDS temple. Now, the new one. Oh boy. The one that looks like, the Tower of Babel.
Really?
Fine.
That's fine.
No, it
That's
really
fine.
really?
It
I
just looks
thought-
like the Tower of Babel, but that's fine.
If you look at it, if you pull
I
up
thought it looked more like
RLDS,
the ancient city, or that city from Star Wars, the Cloud City.
well, for sure, but definitely spirals up to heaven. Definitely looking like a Dairy Queen cone, but yeah, it's just weird. But it still exists.
And which one is
Mhm.
that one? What is that called again?
So the reorganized church, what happens is when Joseph passes away, it was very unexpected. They did want his son to take over. He was 10. So people were like, yeah, that's not going to work. Sidney Rigdon was supposed to kind of do it. And him and Brigham Young had kind of like a speech debate type situation. And Sidney Rigdon was sick that day. So he did not give a very good presentation. And also Brigham Young apparently transformed into, Joseph Smith. So so those people went with him, and then the others stayed with Mother Smith with the child, waiting kind of in interim for that child to get old enough, and they did run their own without polygamy. No polygamy there. So
I think the best way to look at it from my perspective is this is the bloodline of Joseph Smith. That's why his Freemasonic apron was in Kirtland for a while before the mothership at Salt Lake got their hands on that property. And this is the man who leads the RLDS today is a direct descendant of Joseph Smith. So that man is likely a member of the Society of the Cincinnati, and he's probably very much at odds with these society leadership there in Salt Lake City, the mothership.
I'm certain. Yeah. They also kept more of the woo-woo stuff and then the magic, whereas Brigham Young got rid of that and it became like the CIA Mormons. And I mean, that's what it is.
Well,
I don't know what else
I would
to say
argue the
about
Mormons invented spook operations in this country.
that. Maybe that. Yeah. Either way, it's
Well,
a thing.
I can say that I was recruited by every 3-letter agency you can think of, probably some you never heard of during my 20 years in the military police.
Oh my God. So that's something else we got to talk about.
Oh yeah, when you put Mormon on your dog tag, suddenly a lot of folks want to talk to you.
And there we go.
There it is.
I left Mormon on my dog tag for this reason, because even though I left the church 5 years into my military career, I found out you don't want to be an atheist amongst that crowd either. I'm not an atheist. I'm just saying if you don't have something on your dog tag, they assume you're an atheist.
Yeah, there's that spiral.
There's the tower. Yes. It's interesting. They did keep more of the, I would say, the woo-woo aspect, and they did raise women up as well. And I think they let them hold the priesthood and everything. It's completely back to how Joseph had it. So,
and now they call themselves the Community of Christ.
COC.
They changed their name officially about 20
Bad
years ago.
acronym.
Extremely bad acted.
Anyway, when you have this temple, it's a horrible acronym.
Or it's
Are they trying to tell you something?
It's pretty spot on.
Yep.
Wow.
Exactly.
I know we're starting to wind up here, and I got to check out here. But is there anything else you guys want to bring up before we bring this to a close?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about how much these folks really spread across the nation of Deseret and Mexico.
Let's do it.
Again, this is your neck of the geographical parts of the world, so I'm not all that familiar with those parts. I have enough hard times with the names of English languages, let alone other languages' names, let it be French or Spanish. I've been studying a lot of the French chapter of the Society of the Cincinnati, and I feel like I'm stuck in a show of Fraggle Rock sometime with all these names I'm reading. So no offense, but I'm just saying I already have I oftentimes forget folks' names moments after I meet them, so that's why there's a lot of people in my life named Phil and Sue, because I couldn't tell you the difference of that's just their default name they get if I forget their name. So I actually have a friend that I still friends with today, have been for over 20 years. I still call him Phil because I just couldn't remember his name for when I first met the dude, one of my old coworkers. And fellow airman in the military police and the Air Force there. But and everyone else was calling him Phil, and I was like, I don't think his name's Phil, but you can ask him. And suddenly today's his name's just Phil. Anyhow, so I have a real problem with names, but understanding these concepts of I've been mapping things out with the Mormon cult activity, and literally from 1850 through the 1930s, they are as far south as Mexico City.
Okay. So
deep in the Yucatan, right? Deep in the Yucatan.
That is the Yucatan Peninsula. I'm not in the state, but I'm in the Yucatan Peninsula, and of course, I've seen them here. Like, cannot deny that they have a strong presence.
You've seen the official ones,
yes.
Sir. You've seen the official.
You
ones.
are right. Yeah, I've seen the ones that I'm allowed to see.
Right.
They settled it in apparently 1885 there in Chihuahua, Mexico is what they say.
I've been tracking largely the LeBaron family, but they're not the only ones. There's a Mexican national fellow by the name of Bautista who had a very large impact as being a cult leader. So he was a fundamentalist cult leader of the Mormons on the third conference. So you had three divisions of polygamy, basically. You had the 1890s, 1915 or so, and then circa 1936. I think it is. That's the third conference. That's when this dude, even as late as that, was down as far as Mexico City, taking folks and starting a new fundamentalist cult down there. Now today, all that exists is the LeBaron and the Romney families, and they're just south of El Paso, about an hour, and they've had a lot of, like I said, those families were doing nanny stuff and sex trafficking operations for NXIVM. The same teenage women that got murked by the Mexican drug cartel. One of the LeBaron sons in recent years has been busted for drug trafficking and other such hood rat shit activities. One of a full-scale cartel war that ended with the division of the cartels that we now know today was the Quintero cartel. That splintered off into other cartels. You know what I'm talking about? Now we have Sinaloa. Now we have you name the ones we know now. They all came from Quintero. That all revolves around the LeBaron family, Satanist drug traffickers, including the Interpol chief, and right 20 minutes from LeBaron compound is this DEA officer that got murked in 1985. The U.S. government just got Quintero to the States a few months ago to put him on trial. 1985 was when he was arrested. The Interpol chief that helped bring him to justice would commit suicide a few years later. And the name you may be familiar with, Adolfo Costanzo, as we discussed, I believe, the Matamoros cult. It seems that Interpol chief was moving this guy around, Adolfo Costanzo, to insert himself into Mexican drug cartels as their chief Satanist narco trafficker dude, right? Because here's the deal that I'm only now understanding. Any person that is a narco trafficker, be it the Medellin cartel, be it the Panamanian fella, Noriega. I was just reading the DEA report on Noriega the other day. They had and it says in the report, a Matamoros style cult altar in his home. So all of these folks are doing the same Satanist stuff, and it seems to coincide with whatever these Mormon fundamentalists are doing down there, which I would argue they're kind of Satanists.
You need to look up the Panama connection for Mitt Romney and his shell companies and who started that with Bain and Company, because it's all Panamanian and it's very interesting, as well as Robert Maxwell. Just FYI. Just a little gravy for that potato.
Oh, and that's a good point. So I think it's an interesting case not being reported on right now is the prosecution of Quintero, and it's wrapped up in all these cults, all this drug trafficking and human trafficking, including NXIVM, these Mormon fundamentalist cults that include the Romney family. Mittens Romney's father was born down there in that same compound.
Actually, he ran for president and was disqualified for running for president because he was born there.
Wow. There is so much.
This is all 20
to unravel here and unwrap here. It's so much.
It gets crazy. Yeah. And one last thing that's really
crazy.
It gets crazy. Yeah. And also just FYI, I mentioned the gays a lot when I talk about Howard Hughes, and they're extremely important to this day. But not only are the LeBarons on TV in the form of Christine from Sister Wives, by the way, the gays remain on TV because she is part of the Real Salt Lake City Housewives. And the gays are extremely important to the Howard Hughes company. But when you spoke about kidnapping and such things, we have to know that the son of the very important Bill Gay, who was Howard Hughes's main guy that ended up getting the biggest piece of fat from the will. Okay, he ends up running Howard Hughes Medical Center. His son's daughter actually ends up kidnapped and disappeared for like over, I think it was 7 or 8 days. She was 14 years old in 1996. And this ends up the shutdown of the Bain Corporation. And it was really weird because as soon as that happened, JJ, they flipped it around and he ends up leaving. Robert Gay, Quorum of the 70, very involved in the Mormon church. He ends up leaving that to go to Huntsman and merges Huntsman Gay Global Capital, HGGC. If you want a rabbit hole,
the John Huntsman
you
family
might want to go down that Huntsman Center.
Yeah, they're the folks who invented styrofoam.
Mm-hmm.
Prominent Mormon family. John Huntsman's been the ambassador to China in recent years.
Yes, and very close connects with Bin Laden's, Khashoggi's, all kinds of fun people. Like, I'm just saying. Yeah.
You got to watch out for those Mormons on TV, though, because they're everywhere.
They're all there.
And here's an example of how the Mormons, when they went global on everybody, what they did. So this fellow right here, you'll see the red-haired ginger Hawaiian fella. It's an odd setup since both of his parents are Hawaiian and he's somehow ginger. But I grew up with this fellow in the church and went to, we were Boy Scouts together and whatnot. And he didn't play on the Mormons love basketball, at least in Ohio, and he didn't play on the team. But his dad was one of our assistant scout leaders at one point in time. But they're from the Hawaiian royal family. So when the Mormons took over Hawaii a long time ago, long before it was a U.S. state,
under Bill Gay, and
they integrated into the the royal family.
You
so
know,
they recruited into the royal family. Well, was that Bill Gay? No, I'm thinking
Bill Gay
this is
set up the Polynesian Center. Yeah,
but I'm thinking like 18. This is like what I'm thinking is 1870 though. This is, I mean, it may be a gay. Those gays are everywhere, but you know, what I'm saying, what I'm getting at is what I'm getting at, not only the infiltration of how they got into royal families in Hawaii, again, nearly 100 years before Hawaii was a state, I think in 1964, so I'm thinking 1870. And again, it might have been a gay, to be quite honest with you. It would make sense why his son, his descendant later, would be over there doing the same things, right? Again, it is. That's why I like to play a game on my Friday nights show on Operation GCD is who is your daddy and what does he do? Turns out we got a lot of folks hiding out who their daddies are in this world.
I got a picture I'm going to send you about John Travolta because I made it for you last night at work.
Nice. And, you brought me a couple of those characters, not the least of which JFK Jr. for that game there, Heidi. But the Mormons in the mid 19th century, in circa 1850, no nation on this planet had an intelligence operation, a navy, and missionaries. And the Mormons had, the nation of Deseret had all three.
Yep.
So when I say they invented the spook game, I'm not making that up. And when I say they infiltrated every nation on this planet, I'm also not making that up.
Wow. The unseen hand, it's the one of many unseen hands, because I know there's many other groups as well that do that as well. But
no, that's true. There are many unseen hands, but I'd like to know how many of them have multiple $100+ billion slush funds.
And also that they have the most land owning for farming other than Bill Gates is number one. Number two is the Mormon Church. But the first holding in the Mormon Church's portfolio is Microsoft. So they've been playing this game a long time. Just saying.
Thankfully, as a U.S. taxpayer, though, I, myself and Heidi included, as taxpayers, own 75% of America through the public lands. I'm just, it's a little plug to say that, I do recognize there's a lot of aspects in our control of America and global control that are a bunch of scumbags. I'm cognizantly aware of the fact that there are also good people in this world and within some of these same organizations.
I agree. And I think that's a great way to end this off today for this one. Heidi and JJ, I want to say thank you so much for making the time. And do you guys want to give yourself a plug once more before we close this up?
Yes, sir. I think you're going to ask us to give us some applause, and I'll do that too for Heidi, not for myself.
This was a great time all the way around. And thank you so much for having me on. I'm Heidi Love of Unfiltered Rise Podcast. I'm everywhere podcasts are served. I do have my own Patreon. I don't cut my episodes. If you want 2 extra episodes a month, you can go there and sign up. It's $5 a month. It's basically like buying me a coffee for my hard work and research. I try not to raise that price because I understand and I want people to be able to get that information. It's usually around nursing. And so my upcoming series with Janet will be all about carnival sideshow diseases because we're weird. So that's going to be fun.
Is
Anyways,
that where you get
but
a bearded lady? Like by accident,
yeah,
you're a lady, you get a disease, you get
yeah,
a beard.
you get a beard. Yes. And
Suddenly
then
you get a
so
job
check
too
me
at the
out.
circus.
Yep, exactly.
No, I appreciate the invite, Rye. It's great conversation, sir. And Heidi, always, ma'am, it's always a wonderful conversation talking these topics. JJ Vance, host of Operation GCD, not the vice president. No bombs here. And Operation GCD Wednesdays, I do an occult and esoteric film review, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Fridays, Rye, you'll have to join me again for a future Fridays. We've had some wonderful conversation over there in the past. Certainly look forward to having more of these in the future with you, and welcome you back anytime. Now, also at 9 p.m. And then I do a Patreon Sundays and Thursdays at 9 p.m. Do a preview on my normal channels, but then the full show's on Patreon live every Sunday and Thursday. Sundays are my GCD adventures, if you will. That judge that let Ted Kennedy walk in Chappaquiddick happened to let out a kid-diddling, cannibalistic, homicidal, psychopathic serial killer who I came face-to-face with back in 2001 and who allegedly served me human meat burgers at the local Hardee's back in 2000. And that's in a show I did a few weeks back, The Legend of Nathaniel Bar Jonah. So that's the appropriate look, sir. It was pure evil, I can assure you of that, in that man's face and eyes. He was let out to terrorize the town of Great Falls, Montana. That's I like that town. It was my first assignment. I lived there for 3 years, and some great people there. And that judge, I'm telling you, process folks are going to process. So, folks want to hear more about Satanism, stuff like that, and process and murder and whatnot, or the topics we discussed tonight. Do a lot of all these things, and then Thursdays I do. I'm unpacking the psyop that we know as the anatomy of the Satanic Panic, the psyop we know as the Satanic Panic. So
awesome.
Appreciate the time. Look forward to more conversation, sir.
Thank you guys so much. I really, really appreciate it.